Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of the Mariposa Podcast. I'm so excited because I am here with somebody who I have known and admired for years. I'm with Brandi Sea, creative director, and today she is bringing all of that creative knowledge and experience for all my creative people out there. We're going to talk all about how she got where she is, but especially if you are a beginning freelance graphic designer or somebody who is interested in getting into this creative director space. She has all the knowledge and all the tips that will help you to get there. So without further ado, welcome, Brandi.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Your space is so me. It's so colorful. So I'm really excited.
Thank you. I know. I'm so excited. I'm like just the planning of the coordinating the color here.
I thought about it. I didn't want to clash, so I had to wear black and white.
That's so
stand
cool.
out from the pack.
But also, too, I just love the idea of like as a creative director, you're wearing your brand. I just appreciate that because, I feel like so much as we get older, there's this like inclination to like not be so colorful or out there and I just love that you do that because I do that and sometimes I have to like step back. I'm like, is this not professional enough? And it's like, no, it's true to you. So I appreciate that.
It's very much, I used to say that my favorite color was rainbow.
Yeah.
And I think I still hold to that. And it's obviously my brand isn't rainbow, or maybe not obviously. My socks are kind of rainbow.
I like the necklace, the socks. I'm getting it.
Yeah, I think not just as you get older, but unfortunately, even as creatives, designers early on, they being whoever they are, try to tell you that you can't have your own voice and you have to merge into the voice of your client, which in some cases is true. Yeah. But I think that like knowing who you are is going to come out in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allows you to maintain that consistency and just that authenticity as a creator.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you're here today and I appreciate that you're going to bring some unique perspectives. Here's what I do love about Brandi, you guys. She is coming from the professional design world where there is methods to doing what she does. And it's not just a throw spaghetti at the wall and hope that it sticks. And so I appreciate that expertise and that knowledge. I think that a lot of what you do, there's not a lot of conversation around that. So we're going to dig in and ask some really good and juicy questions today.
I might get feisty.
That's okay. Feisty and spice is welcome today. So we'll jump in with just a little bit, just tell us about you and a little bit about the path of how you landed at where you are today.
Oh man, I should be better at this. I'm going to try and be quick because this can go really long. So I was raised by two very amazing parents who, my mom wanted me to wear little girl dresses and like be that. And my dad wanted a boy. And so there was like this weird juxtaposition. So I was like super tomboy and he was very much like, let Brandi do what Brandi's going to do. Yeah. So like if Brandi wants to wear mismatched socks to church with her dress, like just let her do that. Like it's not worth the fight. My mom's like, but she looks so weird. And so, I mean, you know, let's just say I probably had my dad wrapped around my little pinky finger because I was just that child. So I got to wear what I wanted. And I think that combined with the fact that I eventually liked making Legos or building Lego, I guess is the proper word to say it. I like to draw, I like to color. My grandma was a painter. My dad's an awesome photographer, even though he's a custom home builder also. Yeah. That's like his hobby. So I grew up with a lot of that creativity and while at the same time doing a lot of sports with both of my parents. So like working out a lot of sides of my brain at the same time. Yeah. My dad took me with him to work. He was remodeling an office building. On the lower portion was like the law office he was working on, but on the top portion, the wife of the lawyer had a business. And so my dad was like, it was like, take your daughter to work days. He was like showing me around and showing me off. And I was 10 and I remember walking through this office space and seeing them like cutting out papers and I saw like printing things and they like walked me through this process. And at the end, I saw that they made business cards. And I was like, that's so cool. You just made that? And they were like, yeah, this, we do graphic design and printing. And thinking back, it was like super basic, right? Is just
Biz card 101, yeah.
Yeah, just name, business, like phone number, fax. And after that, I went home and stopped playing like school with my friends and was like, I'm going to play business card maker. And so from like 10 years old, I was like, that's what I want to do. I didn't know what a graphic designer was, you know, in, what was that, 1991? Like,
it wasn't
what is
a thing
graphic
yet.
design? And so I knew that I wanted to do that. So by the time I graduated high school, I knew that's what I wanted. So I looked into art school, went to, it's now, nobody's going to know this. This school here used to be called the Art Center Design College.
Yeah.
Turned into this place called SUVA, and I got my associates. And after I finished my associates, one of my instructors was like, Brandi, you have something special. Like, you need to keep going to school. And I'm like, stop it. I don't need to spend more money. Like, I can get a job just fine with an associate's degree. Like, it was an associate's in advertising art, so I was going to go into advertising, and I really always wanted to be a creative director. And he was like, well, you know, I think you're wasting some talent, but because you still have a lot to learn, you need to take some marketing classes. No one's going to hire you to be a creative director if you have an associate's degree. And so I was like, I don't know, but, you know, I prayed about it, and my husband at the time, my former husband, and I were like, okay, can we do this? We're going to have to take a break, save up some money, and then come back. So overall, getting my bachelor's degree in graphic design took 7 years, but I did it. I graduated valedictorian, 8 months pregnant with my daughter, which was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And
bravo.
Thank you. I was able to get some like internships while I was there, do some freelance work, just trying to get my hands into actually working with clients since I started in college. So I didn't wait till I was good enough. I just started doing stuff, and let me tell you, it was bad. A lot of that work was terrible, but I was learning and growing. And after graduation, I've always been huge into music, and this plays a lot into a lot of the work that I do. I know a lot of bands. I worked as a merch manager for like 10 years for a music festival that they used to have here called Freedom Fest, and got a lot of connections. And one of those connections, his name is Joey Belleville, and he's a really good friend of mine. And I was like 4 months after I had my daughter, and I didn't want to work, and it happened that I needed to work. And I had the degree, so I was like, okay, I don't know, God, like, I really just want to stay home with my child. Like, do I have to work? And this door swung wide open for a position at a local church doing web graphics. And I was like, oh, I don't like web design. I don't want to be a web designer. But you know what? If this is the door that's open for me, like,
I'll take it. I
guess this is what I'm doing. And not 4 months later, so they hired me to do that primarily, but also to help out the art director there. And at the time, the art director at this place was basically acting as like a project manager. He was farming out work that they needed to outside agencies. And I was like, that's not an art director. Like, you're not directing anything. And he ended up leaving, and I was like, I know I've only been graduated like 6 months, but I think I can do that job, and I think I can do it better. So I applied. I put together an entire proposal about like, here's where I can save you money by bringing in everything here. I can build an in-house design team, bring the branding into line with everything. Like, there was a coffee shop, there was a skate park, there was 3 radio stations, like so many things. And I was really passionate about making everything cohesive. And so over the 3.5 years that I had that job, I grew the team into a team of 4 designers beside myself and 2 interns.
That's amazing.
And everything was in-house, and it was a dream come true. I became an art and creative director within the first 9 months of graduating. And it wasn't because I was just so awesome. I feel like not only it was God, obviously, but I feel like I had that confidence to be like, I've never done this, but I know that I can do it. And stepping out before I had done it, instead of waiting for that to come to me, waiting for the universe to be like, you can be an art director now, you can be a creative director, you've had enough years in. And I jumped in the deep end, and there was a lot of mistakes and a lot of craziness, but it was incredible. 3.5 years later, I left that job and started to do my own thing. I worked at Apple for about 9 months while I was trying to like transition over, which was
its own journey.
It was retail. We'll just say that. Apple's a great company to work for, to be honest. But started my own thing fully because I had always had a side business. I was always doing my own stuff on the side as Epiphany Design because I thought it was really clever, right? You always have that like phase where you want to just name your business something super clever. Decided to change it to Brandi Sea. One of my art professors in college used to call me Brandi Sea.
Yeah.
And he was the first one that started calling me Brandi Sea. And
Which is her middle name.
It is my middle name.
Yeah.
And I'm named after the song by The Looking Glass because my parents are awesome. My mom's a drummer, so they're very into music. And I thought,
a drummer.
My mom is a drummer.
That's cool.
Yeah. Your husband's probably seen her drum.
I'm sure. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm seeing how all of that is like generationally layered into your love for music and your creativity.
It is.
It's just cool to see that play out.
It is. Yeah. I can play drums a little, but not a lot.
Next episode.
No, you don't want to see that.
Next episode.
Nobody wants to see that. I play the radio. That's what I play. So that was its own journey. It took a good long while to kind of find my feet again.
Yeah.
Because I had been able to have the stuff come to me. It was like, I'm going to sit in my office and be the creative director, pick the projects I want, give the projects that belong to other people. And I forgot how to market myself and how to, I didn't even think about the fact that I needed to know like who my person was anymore because it was so far gone.
Your audience member, your persona.
Yeah. My dream client was just like, I just need money. Just any client will do. Which, that was 2012. So now it's 10, 11 years later. And we'll skip a lot of the middle stuff because we'll probably talk more about that. But I started a podcast. I started a blog. Yeah. The reasons behind that are really important to me. But I love working in an office, I'm going to be honest. Yeah. Like, I love working with other people. So it has definitely been a big, like, trusting God thing for me to be like, you know who I am, but also I have to trust that I know this is where I'm supposed to be. Like while my kids are in school, I'm home and I have a business and I make money. So it's good. But I'm such an extrovert that it's so hard for me to not just be in an office where I can direct other creatives and help grow people in that way. So I have to do that through my podcast. I have to do that through Instagram and TikTok and all the other things that I do and hope that is enough.
Yeah. No, I hear you about that community element because being a creative, you can kind of feel like you're on an island sometimes. But I hear you, and I feel like the community aspect for a lot of people is important to work alongside others. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
That's probably the shortest version I've ever been able to do.
No, thank you. I think so many of the details of who you are matter, and we're able to see how it's all coming together there for you. But to wrap it up, as far as takeaways from your story, here's some things I took away. Number 1, just start. Like for the person who's like, I need to feel ready, you're not going to feel ready. I'm taking that from your experience and your story. Like just do it.
It's like when people say, I got to be ready before I have kids. You're not going to. You'll never have kids.
Ready. I'm like, you're never have a kid. You'll know you were never ready. But all that to just say you have to just do it. And for the person who has their toes on the edge, like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. You have to try and be willing to fail.
Yes.
But be willing to succeed.
I was not perfect at it right away.
Yeah.
Or I'm still not.
Yeah. It's all, and I think even having been in the workforce, like for me, I've been working since I was 15. So it's like 20 years. Like, I feel like I know nothing. It's like every day.
So much to learn.
It's just, I'm like a work in progress. I'm a forever student. And I think that mindset has helped so much because I'm always looking for areas to learn and grow and be better. And I don't have to wait till I know something before I can try it. So
I'm also an Enneagram 3, and it's just nothing's ever good enough. My husband's like, you just redid your whatever, like last year. I'm like, yeah, that was last year.
Yeah. It's 2023. No, I hear you on that. No, and I just appreciate that because, yeah, I think that people sometimes just need that kick in the butt. Like, just do it. Don't
Or the encouragement,
The encouragement,
to
yeah.
like, it's okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
Or I'll push you.
Yeah,
We can
that's
do that
true.
too.
I'm more of like a kick in the butt person. Like, encouragement's nice, but like I need tough love of like, that's
Depends on the day.
Depends on the person. Either way.
Or that. Depends
Either
on the
way,
day or the person.
Either way, the message is that just do it.
Yeah.
Like, just give it a try, and you'll never know what's on the other side unless you do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of my favorite things about Brandi is that she has a secret formula and method to the way that she creates. And I'm dying to know what this is. Like, I've seen your process of inspiration. I've seen your designs. Clearly, there's a brilliant bridge that's putting those two things together. Can you, without sharing all of your secret sauce, like, tell us
you know what? It's fine. The thing is, I don't want it to be secret. Like, I want people to do this because, so I call it the strategic process. Like, you can tell I'm not a copywriter. I need a better name for it. It is what it is. But I also call myself a design director. Creative director is something more people understand. But I also do brand and design strategy. And there aren't very many people that call themselves design strategists. And I feel like that's because they don't know what design strategy is. People know what brand strategy is, but what is design strategy? And for me, design strategy is having a specific, repeatable, reliable process to get from your client walking in the door and talking to you handing them whatever it is they needed from you.
Okay. And
it should be something that you can sit down at any point and go, okay, you do all this stuff. Like, there's some parts of this process, and I'll tell you what that is. But like, there's some parts of this process that are like, yeah, all the designers in the entire world probably do that. But then there's a few things that I do in between those steps that are completely different from how most
others
people work. And that is like, that's the secret sauce. That's like the key. And so let's say you have your design brief, whether you do that in a meeting or you do that in a questionnaire that someone fills out. Okay, so that's done. All right, so now I know my problem, right? I know my target audience. I know all the questions that I need in order to begin to create. So I'll ask you, what do most designers do next?
So they get their design brief. They have their context. I imagine they probably just wait till they have the creative energy and they start creating. Do clients care if you have creative energy today? Clients do not care. Clients care about their deliverables.
They do. But do they care if they need something in a week and you just weren't feeling it for a week?
They do not care.
So what do you do?
That is a great question.
So that is what my process solves. Like, I didn't develop this to like sell to people. This is something that I started doing in college, primarily just based around, I think the era that I went to college was like on this cusp of the old way of doing things where it was completely analog, and the new way of doing things, which was like Corel Draw. This is brand new. This is crazy. What is this? And so I was like in this middle space where it was like computers and analog. So I was taught that my designs to begin with were completely hand done. So my first 2 years of college were I do sketches, thumbnail sketches, then roughs with pencils, then marker comps, then tight marker comps that look shaded. It's like gray markers, and it looks like an ad that almost looks like photographic.
But it's hand done.
And it's all hand done.
Yeah.
But then I had another class where I would have to turn that into the digital. And so in that process, I realized how much better my ideas were because I sketched first. And so, sidebar, if I hadn't gone into graphic design, I would have been an English major. And the defining line there for me was, I don't want to teach people how to read, and I don't want to be a teacher and I love design. So I have like a deep love for literature and the English language. And so in that, over time, there was sketching. And have you ever done, some people call it like a web or a word, you know, thing. I call it a word map.
Yeah.
Mind map is usually the big thing. I don't recall exactly when I started doing this, but there was a point where I realized that like I needed some better ideas. And so I reached into the love that I have for literary devices and things like that, and thought I'm gonna do like a mind map, and I'm gonna start connecting things and see if I can just get my brain going a little bit, because I'm stuck. You know, how many times we're just sitting there as creative people going, maybe I just need to go for a walk. Maybe I just need fresh air. Okay, but what happens? You go for a walk. Your mind wanders. That's great. You have all these cool things that you see, but then you come back and you're still stuck. And the blank page is still mocking you.
And the deadline is quickly approaching, and you still have to provide.
And there's nothing.
Yeah.
And then you start to feel your imposter syndrome sits down with you and is like, hey, we're besties. You can't do it anyway. They hired the wrong person. You should probably just tell them to go find that other designer that they were talking. And it makes it worse. So how this works is you get the brief.
Okay.
And you get the things out of it. And there's a really important couple questions that I ask in the brief. One of them is, what adjectives would you use to describe your business? And so out of those adjectives, I will take those, put the client name right in the center of this word map. So this is step 2. I get the brief. Next thing is ideating. That is this word map method that I have developed. And I have like playlists that actually like are brain hacks to get your mind working. You don't listen to music with words. You only listen to stuff that is instrumental, whatever gets you going. And you sit down with your sketchbook and you word map and you set a set amount of time, or I tell people either use a time or the edge of the paper, whichever you hit first. Like if your playlist ends first, stop. If you hit the edge of the paper because you're just going,
more room.
You just go. So you get all the words that you can out of your head, and then you pull out a thesaurus and you just go. Eventually, using those starting words that you got from your client, you go through. And this is the part that I won't really go into because it takes a long time to kind of figure out. But basically, you pull out words from there to get your design concept.
Okay. And
this is another thing that like I get on my big soapbox about, because design concept is not a design execution. So like designers will say, I showed the client 3 concepts. Okay, maybe you did because you showed them 3 completely different things, but why would you do that? Show them 3 variations of one concept, because then it looks like you don't know what you're trying to sell to them either. If you know how to solve their problem, there should be one concept. And so this also fuels that one concept method. So you have one concept. Once you have your concept, you can go back into the word map and pull out your visual elements. So say you are doing like a laundromat or whatever, and you can go in and pull out, this is really low-hanging fruit. This isn't how the word map actually works because it's better than this, but bubbles and shiny, and pull out those things. Okay, now you have a concept, now you have your visuals. Then you go look at those things, go back into the word map, and you pull out colors, because there should be colors in that word map.
I see. Yeah.
Now you have your colors.
Okay.
Before you've touched a computer, before you've looked up any inspiration, you already have your concept, your visuals, and your colors. And you have a recipe to work with. Design. A lot of designers like, I liken a lot of this to like baking a cake. You're not going to go into your pantry and say, I want to make a cake. I feel like making a cake today. Okay, I don't know what kind of cake. I'm just going to like grab a bunch of random stuff. I'm going to throw it into this thing and put it in the oven, and hopefully it works. If it doesn't, it's cool. I'll just grab more things. That's how so many designers work. It's like, okay, I know what my client needs from me. They need a wedding cake. But I don't really know what that's going to look like. They don't really know what that's going to look like. So I'm just going to pull some ingredients, play a little bit, feel my creativity, because it's like, wait a minute. Nobody's paying us to be feely, and you know, that's where I feel like it's a hard line, right? Because I talked earlier about how people tell you like your voice doesn't matter. It's really important to understand who you are so you can use your voice in that, and that comes in your inspiration. But when it comes to actually pulling those ingredients and stuff, your feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel about this color or this kind of graphic or this typeface. If it's going to work for this client, and if it came out of this word map, the beauty of this is if it came out of the word map, it can work because it is connected at its root from something that the client gave you.
Wow. Okay. I have like 38. I have like 39 takeaways. Okay. So first off, I'm seeing a process that I've never had somebody express as far as emotionally detaching yourself from not only the creation process, but also the final product.
Somewhat, but here's the thing, Laurene. Where did those words on that page come from?
I mean, the
you.
Yeah.
So you are still a part of this inherently. There's a gentleman over here behind the camera that no one can see. All three of us, I could sit here and do 3 word maps based on the exact same words.
Yeah.
All 3 of our word maps and all 3 of our concepts, visuals and colors would be different.
Yeah.
Because we are the humans that are operating that word map.
This machine. I see. But I love the concept of not being emotionally attached to having to create. I think for me, as somebody who's been in my 30s for 5 years now, like I'm so much realizing that it's not about how you feel. Like most of life is not really actually about how we feel about anything.
It's true.
Like you still, especially after you have kids, you know, or you get married, or like just all of these like character refining parts of life, really don't care how you feel about any of it. Like, but it's okay. I think that generationally speaking, there's a little bit of a gap that sometimes it's for the younger generation, it's how do you feel, and you operate upon feelings. And I'm kind of learning the hard way. It's not like that. But to see that in the design world, like how does that play out is very interesting. Because I apply that to my life every day. It's like, do I always feel like showing up and giving 100% to this company? No, like some days I want to curl up in a ball and not show up anywhere.
Right.
You know, but we don't really have that option. It is a matter of will. And I think of obedience to God as well. Like to just show up regardless of how you feel and give it your best.
Yeah.
Whether you're designing, running a company, like whatever it is you're pursuing in life.
Well, and it takes away the, like, as creatives, imposter syndrome like never actually goes away. It's always like there. But this process gives you the opportunity to be able to sit down and immediately have something to put on the page.
Yeah.
And then from that something comes something, comes something, comes something. Once you've got your concept and all your stuff, then you can look for your style references and inspiration and sketch your stuff. There's like, I don't know, 9, 10 steps in my process. And the first like 7, you're not even touching a computer. And I think that, being able to have something to put down immediately and have a starting place right away is like magical. Yeah.
Also for the people who love to check off your checklists, when I'm like, you get me on this.
I'm like, I already did that, but I'm going to put it here anyway I can see it.
So I can see myself cross it off. But like in the creative process, if there's a gap, you feel worthless. Like you haven't produced, when even though a lot of the labor has happened in your mind, but unless you see something, so it's cool to have something that keeps the process moving forward.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't feel like you've done much. But a lot of it's, you can't see it.
Well, especially when there's like that, there's the slump, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I have a new client. They're so cool. Their problem's really fun. Like, this is going to be great to solve. Even if, let's say you don't use my process and you're like, all right, even if you sketch, which most designers don't even do anymore. Okay, I sketched a bunch of stuff, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, which one? Which one? Like, I don't know. you know what, I'm just going to get on the computer and look for some inspiration and wait to be inspired. You know what happens when you get on the computer and look for inspiration? You feel more imposter syndrome. Or if you don't know how to use inspiration properly, you're just going to end up ripping off other people's work and reinterpreting it as your own. And that's like a whole other thing. So,
and that's something you won't feel good about the final product.
Never.
Yeah.
You can say you are. You'll know.
Yeah.
You know.
They'll know. They're never going to know, I think.
They'll know.
Okay.
Maybe they won't, but you will.
I'm going to sum that up for our viewers to say that it is possible, if you are a creative, to put a process in place for creativity.
Yeah. Be creative on demand is what I call it.
Yeah. Being creative on demand. And so that's really encouraging, especially for the person at this point who's waiting for the moment where they feel creative to actually create. You can bypass. You can transcend that system and that way of thinking with Brandi's process. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so this is another big question. Where do you get your inspiration? I've seen like some of her content talking about this, but like give me the process by which you are able to derive inspiration from everyday life.
So some people have called it like in different contexts, like the art of noticing. I call it uncommon inspiration.
Okay.
And I say it's uncommon because uncommon is anything that is not normal, right? If the common thing for people to do to look for design inspiration in this day that we are working is Pinterest, maybe Canva, Google, Dribbble, all of those kinds of Behance places that you might go to find inspiration, that's what's common. So, but what is your inspiration? Like, what is inspiring to you? What is inspiring to me? This is, like I said, with the word map thing, it's a similar vein. If all three of the humans in this room went out for a walk and we didn't say words to each other, and I said, take 10 pictures of things that you see out here that are inspiring to you. We're all going to take pictures of different things. That's uncommon inspiration. Now how do we use that? So this isn't just like, I generally feel inspired. It's not. It is that feeling, right? Understanding and knowing what you find inspiring is number one. But then it's taking that feeling and being able to use it for something. And this is a typical Enneagram 3, right? I'm going to like put my feelings over here and I'm going to use this. But it's both, because I have always, and we talked how my favorite color is rainbow, but color has always been really big for me, standing out. So thinking about the things that I have always loved from like being real small. Alice in Wonderland. I love surrealistic art. I love fantasy books. Lord of the Rings. I've got a tattoo in Elvish. Like, these kinds of things shape. And then how does that shape what things I find inspiring in the world? I like things that are a little more hand-drawn. I like watercolor type stuff. I like impressionist art. And so when I'm out in the world, I'm constantly capturing whatever I find, and I keep those things in folders in folders in my phone. So I take pictures of this stuff and I keep it. So now I'm going through this word map. I've got my client, I've got my stuff. Say my visuals are polka dots and stripes, and the colors are purple and green and gray. Okay, so now I know what I'm working with. Now what? Okay, now you are preparing your awareness, right? How many times have you been searching for a car to buy and you're like, I really want like a yellow Volkswagen Bug. All of a sudden you're seeing yellow Volkswagen Bugs everywhere. But are there really more of them, or have you just
noticing
more aware of them because you've input that? The same works with this process. You have your colors and your visuals, then you take a break. If you can, I always suggest that you take like a day in between this part, and you either go out into the world, just live your life. you have already prepped your brain with those colors. So you are now ready to receive those things in the world around you. So now you can go out and find a color palette in the real world instead of sitting on color.com or whatever. Now you can go and look for polka dots. Maybe it's raining and you see how the dots are hitting the pavement, and that's polka dots. As opposed to just going to Vecteezy and downloading a Vecteezy of polka dots. That is uncommon inspiration. And that is how you take what you see, combine it with what your recipe is, and you put you into the process.
So, okay, I feel like I've seen you do this a couple of times. You travel a lot.
Yes.
And so I've seen you do this. She takes a picture of something uncommon.
Yeah.
And she'll pull all of the creative elements that she needs from a single photo. So
sometimes. It depends, yeah.
I think I've seen you do this when you went to Paris. I've seen like a few of your Paris photos. But it's a cool process to see it where you take a picture of something that you actually saw in real life. You experience this external thing, and then you're able to develop and create from that as your starting point. So, okay, so let's say there's a beginning designer and they're like, okay, Brandi, I'm sold. I want your process. What would be the first thing you would have them do? Like, what would be that first step to start implementing this into their way of creation?
I mean, I would say get comfortable with not getting on the computer right away.
Okay.
It's a crutch. Like, I love my computer. I have a laptop. I have a desktop. I have an iPad. I love technology.
All the devices.
I'm not like a Luddite. I love technology.
Yeah.
But if you're not comfortable being alone with yourself and just words, I would say get comfortable with words. And the thing is, it comes full circle, because how can we communicate to our client what we've done for them without words? And if they say, I don't really know how I feel about those polka dots, and you can say, yeah, I can see that. Let me walk you through where I came up with that. And if need be, you can go follow the map, literally follow the map, and show them
how you
arrived at polka dots. And why that will work for their problem and to appeal to their audience. Then they have no recourse unless they're just being jerks and they just want to go, I just still don't like it. If you have reasons that are legitimate and you're not just BSing, I hate when designers BS and backtrack. And it's like, you know, this happened a lot when I actually had the opportunity to be a professor at my alma mater for a few years, teaching junior and senior designers. And I taught them this process. But even if they did it, they could still BS and just do what they wanted. And I'd be like, okay, can you tell me why you chose yellow and blue and like a jean texture? I'm just looking at you. Well, you know, I was thinking that like jean felt like, you know, like late 80s, early, I'm like, okay, but
it's giving retro vibes.
Yeah, okay,
vintage
but
vibes.
where did that come from in the word map, and how does that connect back to your client or their audience? I just thought, like, you know, and so many designers do that, and that's why there are clients from hell, because the clients
can see through.
They don't know that they're seeing through it.
Yeah.
But they don't know why it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But they know it doesn't feel right. And that's why there's like so many TikTokers and like all these people like, this client was blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? There's no bad clients. There's bad designers that don't know how to communicate to their clients well.
Which is such an interesting process, because I feel like to the design world, like there's not a lot of professionalism. I shouldn't say this. Take this back. Okay.
You're like, edit that out.
Edit that out. But in the design world, because there's such an emphasis on the creative side, there's often a lapse in the professional side as far as designers knowing how to handle client relations. So one of the things that we feel like we do really well is develop professional relationships with the people who we serve through our services. Not necessarily as design, like creative things are part of our services, but it's not our whole thing. But I've noticed that in the design world that's there. And so I even think from the perspective of somebody starting out, would you say like it's really good early on to lean into those professional skills that will be equally important in maintaining a client base as it is to lean into the design skills that you need to develop and refine?
I mean, I think that's pretty obviously yes, but I also think that it really, like, to what level you pursue that depends on what you want to do in the creative space. If you want to be a production designer and you're only ever going to be communicating with the art director, that's a different level of professionalism than being a creative studio freelancer who handles everything from creative brief to product handoff.
On behalf of a client.
On behalf of
a paying client who has expectations.
Yeah. So I think, you know, or maybe you are just simply maybe you sketch storyboards for film and you never talk to a client ever. That's a different level of professionalism.
Understood.
So I think professional skills are super important, and understanding, if you don't know what you want to do, you just like kind of are exploring, you better level up those professional skills because if you don't have any idea like what avenue you hope to take, you need to have your options open.
Okay, thank you for that, because there's a couple of channels I follow where people in the creative world have made it their channel to teach the professionalism on the other side of the design, because you know when you're so passionate about something, sometimes you might leave some of those other skills to the wayside. So
well, I think that's part of like where a lot of designers or creatives view themselves more as just like artists. It's like, this is my art. Don't tell me how to do my art. It's like, you are not an artist. You are a designer, which is art and science, which is objective things paired with beautiful things. You aren't just doing this and you aren't just doing this. We have to meet in that pretty little Venn diagram space where we have to be able to do both.
Especially if that's going to pay your bills.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If this is your hobby, do what you want.
Yeah. But if you're growing in as
but if you want to be good at your hobby, don't do what you want. Don't do better things.
But if you want to make money doing what you love, then this is part of the package.
Absolutely.
It's a package deal. Okay. Perfect. Well, speaking of starting a business, I'm going to do a quick little plug here. So we at Mariposa Marketing have developed a 10-page guide for the social media manager who wants to get started and take on social media management as a career. So if you feel like you are a newbie social media manager and you want to get some of those professional skills under your belt and you want to really build a good foundation, make sure that you visit the link in our description where you can download it right now.
Right now.
Stop what you're doing. Go do it now. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left.
I know. I told you.
I know, but it's so juicy. It's so good. Okay, so I have to like pick the question that I believe is
I can talk about process and inspiration for like 24 hours straight.
Yo, this is hard. Okay. I'm going to do it because we're going to have to do a part 2. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay. So
wait, did you take some blue pictures? Did you go like
I didn't.
Find some?
But I didn't know the process in detail, and now I feel like
you just go find blue things.
I'm not going to be able to turn it
today I'm
off.
going to find blue.
Fair. And I did notice like your bottle. I had the guys build it blue with those blue undertones. So like you were already rubbing off on me. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you for that.
Glad. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
That's just the beginning. But honestly, like your process, because here's what I will say, like our agency, as far as the work that we provide as social media managers, there's a level to creation that goes into it, but there's also a level of strategic volume as far as who we're delivering to. And most of our clients come to us with established businesses and brands, and we're not necessarily helping them develop that from the ground up. Now, we've had to do that with our own, and we've done some, logo designing through the years, but nothing that's been highly from the ground up creative. So your methods that you've just given me will allow me to open my eyes to some of that process, because for the most part, someone comes to us with a brand they've been using.
And it's not just for logos and brands, though. I've done like award-winning posters, album covers. Like this process is for everything. If you need, basically what I've told people is like, if you need a concept for anything, for a film, for a script, for a book you're writing, like if you need a concept that needs visuals in any way, like this can work.
This is the process to do it.
Yeah.
So I love that too, because we're just starting to dip our toes into, like, for example, videography. We have a really cool shoot coming up that's like 90s retro vibes, shot in the desert.
I'm not surprised at all.
In the desert in Rio Rancho. But all that to say that, yeah, I'm seeing how we're gonna use this process. But this is the perfect segue to an honest conversation that I have not heard anybody have. I'm gonna go there. This is gonna be how we're gonna wrap up episode 1. So we use this program that everyone's heard about called Canva that has, in a lot of ways, taken over the world. Now, here's what I want to say about Canva. Canva has allowed the average individual who has design needs to fulfill those needs via templates. Now, what I do know about Canva is, as far as like what we do, for example, we're doing high volume for our clients in terms of the volume of what we're creating for visuals for their social media channels. In conjunction with video stories, there's a big mix to what we provide. But I understand that there's some things Canva cannot do, and that process you just expressed, and this goes for all of AI in general, this is the new thing, it can't do it. So I have a respect for designers who have stayed the course with designing the way you do it. But let's talk about this conversation from a design perspective. How do you feel about Canva?
Just made me feel really old. Designers that do it like you do it.
That you do it. But I mean that with experience and like a seasoned way of doing things. That even as you're explaining the process, designers who step in now, it almost sounds like, oh, back in my day, we sketched. You know, it felt like that. But that's only been, 10, 15 years? That's how fast things are changing. So it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I want you to just lay it out.
It's not changing for the better. It's not changing for the better.
Tell us, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, first off, just in regards to sketching, like, you can do a simple Google search of the connections that are made in your brain when you use a pencil and paper, as opposed to just a mouse and on a computer
screen. Yes.
So, like, that actually is like directly related to the quality of your ideas. Is whether you sketch first. In addition to using words, which, you know, it's like visual, you know, you have the two sides of your brain. Mm-hmm. So one side is like the logical and one side is like the more creative. And so using something like a word map in sketching, it uses both of those sides of your brain at the same time.
I see.
And as a segue into Canva, like, you're right, that's not something that it can do as an AI program because it's not a human. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a brain. It can pretend like it has a brain. But let me back up. I am not like anti-Canva. I believe that Canva has its uses, just like I'm not anti-Comic Sans, right? Everyone thinks like, oh my gosh, you're a graphic designer? Don't you love Comic Sans? I'm like, I've never heard that one before, ever. But Comic Sans has its uses. It's overused. Mm-hmm. Just like Times New Roman's overused, but they have a place. Mm-hmm. They were created for a specific purpose, not for lawyers on their door signs, right? Like, it's for kindergarten teachers on something, probably. Like, I don't like it, I don't use it, but it has its use. I feel like Canva is the Comic Sans of graphic design. And for better or worse, like, it's not going away, but it's not the tool that matters. Yeah. It's the user. I don't know how many times, so I'm like a hobby photographer. I think I take decent photos. And so many times I've had like extended family members be like, oh my gosh, you have such a good camera. That's such a nice picture. I'm like, and I'm feisty, so I just say, it's not the camera. I know how to take good pictures. Yeah. Like, sure, the tool helps, right? Like, this Sony here is probably going to be better than like my Sony from 20 years ago when I first started taking photos. But ultimately, if I can I still have that camera. I can still take a good picture with that camera because it's not about the tool.
It's the user.
It's the user. So can I get on Canva and use their tools and create an award-winning design? Yeah, but not from a template. Mm. And is it going to be me wanting to kill myself because it's so clunky and impossible for me for what I want to do with it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it good for someone who's just maybe experimenting? I want to learn. I don't want to pay for Creative Cloud. I don't have the money for that. You know, I will say, like, that's a hard barrier to entry for a lot of people, is the amount of money that it costs to get into the proper design software. There's lots of stuff out there that you can use that's better than Canva, that's free. It is not about the tool. Nobody asks a surgeon, like, what brand of scalpel he uses, because that must be the key, right? It's the scalpel. Absolutely not. So I don't like Canva primarily because it's making lazy designers out of designers that could be good.
I see that.
It's making design look too easy for people that don't know anything. There are no principles and elements of design being taught. There's no hierarchy being taught. There's nothing to be said for, like, choosing typefaces except for what is trendy right now. And nothing on Canva is trademarkable. So if you create a logo, or if you find a logo and use it for a client and they want to trademark it someday, sorry, you're going to have to rebrand with an actual designer, because that's not something that belongs to you. And then, even apart from that, it's all homogenized. I can pick out a Canva design from a mile away. And if you're fine with that, and if you're okay with the fact that your brand looks similar to 10 million other brands right now on the face of the earth, and that's up to you. I don't want that for my clients, and I think it's like, well, they don't have the money to pay for that. You're right, but it's a toss-up. So you're either going to get a sign up on the wall that looks like the person 3 doors down because you didn't have the money, or you can think of design as an investment instead of a cost, because it's an investment. And so the Canva conversation for me is much more than just like, do you hate or like Canva? I don't like it because I don't think that it's making design better. I don't think it's making designers better. And I think that it's pushing AI more and more, which I like the things that AI can do. Yeah, but it's how do you use it? AI doesn't have your voice. You can say, can you show me a design like Vincent Van Gogh? Okay, but it's not a Van Gogh. Can you show me a design like Brandi Sea? Maybe someday, but it's not me. It doesn't have my hand in it. And so Canva has its place, I think, especially for social media. It's great if you already have a built brand and you use it to create custom templates for your clients to be able to edit themselves. Absolutely. I do not want my client to call me every time they want to change a date on the event they have every month. Please no. Like, here's your templates with your own custom branded stuff. Don't change things. Don't touch typefaces. Don't move stuff around. Like,
leave it where it is.
It is made for a reason, like for a purpose. Leave it alone. Yeah. I think it's good for things, and it's really bad for other things.
How do you feel as far as what Canva has done to make design accessible?
Define accessible.
Accessible, like, so I'm self-proclaimed small business advocate, but especially growing up in New Mexico, where for a lot, I'm sure you've dealt with this, a lot of the businesses on the ground here, like resources, access to capital, money, like it is a trade-off. And there is not a lot of money to invest in design. But because a lot of businesses locally have learned how to leverage Canva, they now have access to potentially design tools they wouldn't have access to otherwise. So it's not necessarily choosing, fraudulent design over really high-level design. It's choosing Canva design over nothing.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that accessibility gap
I think that's what I mean by I think that it depends on the use. So I think that I would rather have a business be able to look like they care than to have nothing. So I think that that's good. But the problem that I see with that for small businesses is that they're still not being educated on the fact of what, like, maybe that's a good starting place, right? Mm-hmm. We all started somewhere, and maybe that's good for now. And then there needs to be some education that that's not enough to try to live with your untrademarkable, ubiquitous, pastel, trendy stuff that's on Canva and expect your business to look sustainable long term. If that's what you need to get off the ground, to get some ads out there, to put a sign up on your wall, to put a menu together, like whatever it is you need to start, that's great. Get a starting point. But understand that it is important that you maybe, just like you might put aside money to get better windows or get better seating at your restaurant, this is just as much of an investment of something that you should care about is design. It's like before people used, what was it, like Microsoft Page something. It's like, okay, well, this was the same conversation I was having 10 years ago. Well, but I can't afford it. So I have Word templates on my computer, or I have Pages templates on my computer. That makes me like a menu. I can just use that. I don't need to hire a designer. Okay, yeah, like for right now, if you just got your food truck and literally all you could do was just get food to make for today and you just have to have a thing out, great. The problem is that mindset stays, I can just do it myself forever. And you might still make money and that might be fine with you. But it's all about your goals. And if that suits you and that's okay, those aren't the kind of clients I appeal to. Those aren't the kind of people I want to work with, because I want people that want better for their business, that want to be able to grow, that want to see the value in what I do. And I don't do social media. I create things and I give it to them and they do what they will. Yeah. And so I think that accessibility is important, but also educating that, like, just because you can do it yourself doesn't mean you should. Yeah. I mean, no one's gonna just decide, I have access to some plumber's tools. I'm gonna just try and do it myself. It might work for a little while. Eventually, you're gonna have to fork out some money to pay an actual professional. Yeah. And just because it's design and is art adjacent doesn't mean that it is not just as important if you have a business. Yeah, understood. That's the conversation we have often about social media, and I agree with you. Like, these ideas are parallel in the sense that when somebody gets to know how to do their own posting, how to create things, put them on the internet, put it on the internet. But if they're not seeing the results quantifiably that show that the strategy that they're executing is actually working, just because you can do that doesn't mean you should. And is there a better way that would elevate you? So I think for the end user, if you are a business owner, the idea that there's levels to things and do what works for you in that season. Yeah. But when you get to a point, and if you are somebody who wants to build a business that is authentic and that represents you and that is long-term and you're playing the long game, design is important and it should be considered. And Canva has its uses, but creativity is the variable for success right now. Yeah. Like in the world at large. I think Gary Vee was talking not too long ago about the fact that, like, that is the thing that people have been underestimating for way too long. Yeah. And now that there's all these platforms, whether it's TikTok or, Pinterest or whatever, like, what's getting play and pay? It's the creativity. Yeah. And if you're not gonna, if you're not willing to pay for that, then frankly, you're gonna get left behind. And that's not like a stab at people who don't have money. We invest in what we care about. This is true. Absolutely. So. And to think of it that way, that at the end of the day, robots can't mind map. Robots can't create. They can try all they want. I'll be like the person that, like, played chess with the robot. Yeah. I'll be like, I can word map better than you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to end with a fun question.
These were all fun questions.
This one is extra fun, though, because I think you'll like it. What is your favorite design that you've ever created so far? If you had to pick one, I know, she said earlier, it's like choosing a child.
I only have two.
I know.
Oh, man. That depends if my Enneagram 3 is answering the ones I want awards for, but if it's the ones that I really enjoy, it's probably been some personal projects that I've done, book cover designs, just like I did one for Alice in Wonderland, I did one for A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway, which is one of my favorite books, and that's probably, I don't know, those ones stick with me. Yeah.
Your faves. Oh, is it because they encapsulated so many pieces of you?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's because it's like sometimes when I'm mentoring like younger designers, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do. Think about something that you could design over and over and never get tired of designing that thing. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's whittled down to like 3, and the order kind of varies for me, but it's book cover design.
Okay.
It's album covers and posters. So very much like you need to get a concept and idea from like one thing that you look at.
Yeah.
I've built tons of brands, but that is a lot more rounded. It's a lot more, pieces of things and playable elements and stuff. But like if you can achieve communicating something in one go with hierarchy, with color, with graphics, with type, like that is like my happy place. So doing those is super fun. I'm all over the place. I have like a list a mile long of more book covers that I'd like to do that are in the public domain that I would love to do more of. But yeah, it encapsulates a lot of who I am, but also shows a lot of uncommon inspiration, like very directly in those few that I've done. And so those are probably it. We'll just say, you can ask me tomorrow and I'll probably change.
Yay. Well, so let's say, Brandi, someone's like, I love what you're saying. I want to connect with you. I want to see some of these pieces of art that you've created. Where can we best follow you and stay connected to you?
You can follow me everywhere at Brandi Sea, BRANDISEA. I'm the only one in the entire world. So you can just Google Brandi Sea and all of my things. You can find my Medium channel, you can find my YouTube, my blog, my portfolio, my Behance, all the things.
All the things. Clearly, and there's only one. She is one of a kind. She is one of a kind. I'm so grateful for your time today. And honestly, I feel like I learned so much. There's so much of what you shared that I'm going to glean from and share with my team. And you are welcome in the studio. Yay! At this creative space at any point. I just feel so inspired after today's conversation.
I'm so glad. And I do have a course on my process.
You do?
I do. Yeah. So
where can we get this?
So you can, I think you can, let's do this like the backwards way, but gumroad.com/Brandi Sea. Okay. But if you go onto my Instagram, is probably the easiest way. In my link in bio, you can find the course on there. Yep.
Okay, so go get you a Brandi Sea course today. Awesome, you guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today. As always, we appreciate that you stopped by the Mariposa Podcast. And
and if you find me online, tell me that you saw me here.
Yeah, please.
Or heard me here if you're listening.
Totally. Let's all stay connected. Thanks, everybody. Bye, y'all.